It is that time again. Happy Friday, everyone. It is time to hack up a lung with some
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the only way to start a podcast.
That's right.
Look, everyone, she's sitting up this week.
Yeah.
I feel better this time. I slept before the podcast.
There you go. I wish I could have.
Yeah, Luke actually woke me up at like 3 something. And
Oh, it
he's
was
like, "We have the
3:30.
podcast." Yeah. He's like, "We have the podcast in a couple hours." And I was like, "Oh, I forgot." I didn't feel like it doesn't feel like a Friday at all. Like it feels like Wednesday or Tuesday. Like it doesn't feel like Friday already. This week flew by.
TGIF.
Yeah, I feel like we just did this.
See, we're like Full House and Family Matters, back in the old days. So this is what
Yeah.
you get for your Friday evening enjoyment now.
That's
Yes.
Just call me Carl.
right. I want to be Urkel.
Yes.
Laura,
Did I do that?
anybody got any cheese? Savannah Urkel.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's my French name.
You remember that when he turned into a normal guy?
Yeah, what was his name?
Stefan Urkel.
Oh, Stefan Urkel, that's right.
Savannah Urkel.
Yes.
I don't remember how that happened either, but yeah, it was a big deal back then.
I don't remember. He concocted some drink because of how smart he is. And then when he would drink it, it would turn him into. It was like a Nutty Professor kind of thing. Like it would turn him.
Okay,
Smart,
that does sound a little familiar now.
Yeah.
Whoever thought we would be talking about Family Matters on a Kiss podcast? Hey,
Yeah.
breaking boundaries again.
Yes.
Oh God! So happy Friday again, everyone. Don't know if anyone's in yet again. Hopefully, everyone had a great 4th of July. I know we had a good time. So yeah, hope everyone was safe. Javier, I know Javier scored his Kiss fireworks, so whenever he pops in here, maybe he can give us an update on how those looked.
Yeah, I finally I didn't realize I didn't have him on Facebook, so I added him and I got to see the fireworks finally, and it was so cool.
Did he post setting them off or?
No, I think he just the
picture
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that too. I was wondering, whether he filmed setting them off or anything, but
yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
So, this is officially, at least for a very long time, the last episode of the second coming of this podcast. If anyone missed it last week, as we said, starting next week, we are going right back into the cream of the crop, the main Kiss discography. Again, there's going to be some differences, basically in the way we, list. We're going to go track by track like we do with these albums. If anyone remembers or didn't know in the past, the way we did it the first time, we would just kind of list them, say the top 10, we'd rank them our own way and list them that way instead of going track by track. Excuse me. So this time we're going to go track by track to make it a little more fair and, not, jumble so many things at once. And, plus, there's going to be some other little differences in the way we do it. It's going to be interesting, and hopefully you guys are going to be right on board with us, and voting on all these albums and everything else. So next week already, yes. Cannot wait.
Yes, I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, when Luke woke me up and told me that we had the podcast in a couple of hours, and I was like, I just really don't want to do this album. I hadn't listened to it yet, and I was really, after last week, but now I'm glad I did. Like, I'm really glad that I did, because I was nervous going into it, but it was way better. So
I kind of did the same as the last week's, where the studio stuff. It's like I pretty much know that enough, so I kind of skipped through it and then just focus mainly on the live tracks. And then I'm still assuming that those first two tracks were new, at least for that
yeah,
compilation, as far as I know. And we'll probably find out more, but kind of focus more on that stuff. So made it a little easier. And of course, with the Kiss stuff, it's like, don't really need to listen to it all again, but of course I'm going to, because my God,
Yeah.
any excuse I can get to play all the albums, especially again, it's like, yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah, that's something I want to definitely do this time, because there were episodes last time that I just did it based on memory, and I regretted that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't start taking, notes like I do now. I think clear up until we did the Hot in the Shade episode, when we had Gino on here as a guest, and he brought a notebook full of just song by song notes, and I was like, I mean, how late was that in there? And I was like, oh my God, I would sound so much less like an idiot just talking out of his butt if I would just write down some stuff. My God, yeah. So I want to make a point to actually sit and listen and take notes this time.
Yeah, I was guilty of that too, because just knowing the songs, in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
I would just sit here and we'd go each track and I'd just speak, from memory and, whatever. But I think,
Right.
like, definitely once we got into some of those non-makeup albums too, I think I did start to take a few notes for, especially a lot of them songs that I wasn't that familiar with. And, there's still some that are that same way today that I'm still not as keen to, I guess, per se. But so yeah, it's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
So this week's album, to finish up Second Coming for now, is again Ace Frehley. It's another compilation. This one is called Loaded Deck. Again, it's essentially a mixture of live tracks and studio tracks. Just to be clear, there are no Kiss performances when it comes to the live tracks. Even with songs like New York Groove, it's all Frehley's Comet stuff. Thank God Anton Fig on drums for these, or at least most of them.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
All right, so let's see how these how round one, or the first set of round two in the polls went. And what we have in store for this week.
Yes, finally. I'm also trying to get YouTube to cooperate and show me any potential comments.
Okay.
Hopefully I'm not frozen on there, because my computer doesn't seem to be moving. Here we go. Every week now I have trouble getting the computer to load videos up. I know we complain about it every week, but dang it, we're getting new internet soon.
Yeah. Well, real quick, while he's trying to get that pulled up, I want to give a quick shout out to the band Sack Trick, all the way from the UK. We stumbled across some of the songs off of this Kiss tribute album that they did. We stumbled across it a few weeks ago and was really digging some of the tracks and the way they did the stuff, and got to looking, and I actually ended up emailing the band direct and asked them if they still had any of these for sale, and they did, and sent it through PayPal, and it literally just showed up in the mail today when I got home from work. So I want to thank those guys again, Sack Trick. Check this out. It's called Sheep and Kiss Makeup. You can find most of the tracks on YouTube, I believe, but finding these physical copies it seemed almost next to impossible without contacting the band. So big shout out to Sack Trick.
Nice. All right, yeah. So
I like the title.
Yeah, the songs themselves are pretty hilarious too. I think that's what kind of drew us to it, is that it's not just a band doing Kiss songs. It's not just a band doing Kiss songs in their own style. I mean, these guys just took it to the absolute max. It's hilarious.
And like they did not get shy about some of the songs they chose to do. I mean, they freaking do Stanley the Parrot on here. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you diehards that know about Stanley the Parrot and what that is. I mean, my God, they definitely dove in and just pulled out all kinds of things to cover.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about our Every Kiss Song tournament for a moment. Hopefully everybody watching already knows what that is, but just in case you don't know, we took a list of a huge list, something like 264 songs or 262, I think it was. Every studio Kiss track. So we didn't put in any of the Alives or anything, but we did do doubles like the See You in Your Dreams from Gene Simmons and Rock and Roll Over, plus Strutter and Strutter 78, those sorts of things. We put them in a randomizer so that it mixed up the order, and we're doing a tournament to figure out once and for all, between us and our fan base, what is the best Kiss song. And we just started round 2, so super excited about that. We've been doing round 1 for weeks now, and excited to get into round 2. We've got our first 6 match results right now. So let's see here. So our first match for round 2, just straight away, was a kick in the balls. We talked about that last week, but Unholy versus Coming Home. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, I feel like Coming Home would have had a better chance if we had specified the MTV version, but this is all studio version. So this was the Hotter Than Hell version. And for that reason, I feel it's fairly appropriate. Unholy won this one with 71% of the vote.
Wow.
I wasn't sure it was going to run away with it like that, but man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely presented me a quandary first thing.
I think you pronounced it right. Isn't it Unhighly?
Yeah. Right.
That's my favorite.
Our second,
Unholy the Parrot.
Our second, Unholy the Parrot. Yes. The second match was Spit versus And on the Eighth Day, which was another kind of an interesting pair up there. On this one, And on the Eighth Day just barely scrapes by with 52% of the vote. It was literally a 1 vote difference there. So
wow.
I honestly thought it was going to be Spit, though. I really did.
Yes.
Like, that's... Wow.
I can't even remember what I voted for now. I want to say I went towards Spit.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Yep.
But see, that was last week, and
Yeah,
now here I am already this week thinking on the eighth day would be my pick. So I've already contradicted myself.
That's funny. That is funny. And that's good that we've honestly, I mean, to get a bit meta, that's good that we picked something to tournament that, like, it really honestly could go either way, you know?
Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of difficult picks, our next match was Rocket Ride versus Hard Luck Woman. And I'll admit it, this surprised me a little bit. Rocket Ride gets the win with 59%.
Wow, I did not expect.
I think Rocket Ride's going to be the one that goes pretty far.
Yeah. I think in this case I picked Rocket Ride. I'm pretty sure I did, but Hard Luck Woman being, kind of a hit, I expected that one to win.
Yeah, I don't want to downplay Hard Luck Woman because it's an absolutely great song, the original, Peter's vocals, but part of me has to think that if somehow the Garth Brooks version was up against this, maybe that would have won. It maybe would have been a much closer, battle there. Hard to say, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our third match was Two Timer versus Hard Times. So a battle of the times there, apparently. Another close match here, but Hard Times takes the victory with 56% of the vote.
That one I was a little unsure about too. I thought two-timer, being that it was, more of the earlier type of stuff. I thought more people were going to kind of lean towards that, but
Yeah.
I mean, again, great song, but Hard Times, yeah, it's one of my favorite Ace songs too.
Nice. Yes, we had another that I was really interested in seeing which way it would go here. Honestly, our fourth match was two songs I didn't expect to see in round two at all. It is I've Had Enough Into the Fire versus Danger Us. Yeah, and both of those are like my personal favorites from the albums they come from. So I was, again, just didn't expect. I didn't even remember that those had won in round one. In this case, fairly predictably, I've Had Enough gets the victory with 88% of the vote.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's one that's like, is it going to make it through round three?
Mm-hmm. I doubt it. We'll see. Our last match for last week, All Hell's Breaking Loose versus Reason to Live.
That one was hard.
Yeah, a no makeup matchup, and we had a I don't have it pulled up, so I don't remember the name of the guy who commented it, but there was a guy who commented on this matchup saying "Reason to Live" is his all-time #1 Kiss song.
Wow.
In this case, All Hell's Breaking Loose gets the victory with 70%.
Wow. I thought it would be a little bit closer than that, honestly.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gene, I'm not even going to butcher the last name. Gene from Pennsylvania was the one that commented.
Indeed. Well, thanks for that comment, Gene. If you happen to see this episode, that's always great to see positive comments on stuff like that, especially for songs that don't normally get a ton of love.
And then, of course, Rabble had to respond with a GIF saying, "Say what?"
Yes. As always, it speaks to the subjectivity of music, and that's just... Kiss is one of those great bands for that. I remember we talked about this when we did the Dynasty and Unmasked episodes last time with R.J. Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the big thing that he talked about over and over, was how Kiss transformed with the time, and you can, no matter what kind of music you like, you can jump into the Kiss discography and find something you like somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's it seems like just about every Kiss fan, there was a time frame that we didn't really care for, but as time went on, we developed a love for it. It's like, sometimes it just has to grow on you versus just that immediate love for it and passion.
Absolutely.
Because I know for me, it was like, Elder and, Asylum and, kind of Unmasked in a way, but, now it's like I love so much off of all those, if not the whole albums.
Right. Yep. I used to rag Unmasked really bad. I didn't like the production. I didn't like the songs. I used to, before I knew too much about everything, I was like, it's not even Peter on the drums. What, Recently, I felt like listening to something I hadn't listened to for a while, and I listened to the Unmasked album from front to back, and loved every moment of it. It's strange how tastes change, and that sort of thing. You can go from, man, this album is terrible, to, geez, this album is so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And see, I was like that with The Elder and Carnival of Souls. When I first heard both of those, I was like, ugh, what is this? Like, this is not Kiss. This is horrible. And then, like, both of them have grown on me. Like, I love them both now.
Yeah. Dynasty, like, I've said before, I used to only listen to, like, maybe 3 tracks on there, and now I love that entire album, and it's I would say right now it's probably in my top 5 of all the albums.
Yeah. Definitely I would go so far as to say the best produced 70s Kiss album,
Mm-hmm.
which is strange to think about, but yeah.
Great sounding album, but
so
during the tour, I thought the sound was horrible. Like just the whoever was engineering that, because I was listening to one of the Dynasty shows today in the car. One of the things that Javier sent. But not only that, but like every other Dynasty thing I've ever heard, it's like the sound just, I'm not a fan of the way everything sounds on that tour.
Yeah. It felt like they were lacking on a lot, lacking on, the way they were playing the songs. Of course, that was right when Peter and Ace were getting real. But yeah, then the sound as well. Yeah, that concert that comes with, is it Kissology 2, I think? It's like the bonus disc.
I believe
and
so.
That's just, yeah. The sound-wise is just, performance-wise is bad, but sound-wise is also, yeesh.
Yeah.
So right now, or right when you finish watching this, you can go over to our Facebook page and vote. For the next week, we do have the second set of 6 matches for round 2 you can go vote on. Right now, we want as many votes as possible. So get on there, throw your vote on, share them, even if you want to, get your friends in on it, and leave us a comment. Let us know why you like the one you picked or why you dislike the one that you didn't pick. And we always like reading stuff like that. It's neat to see. So our matches for this week, our first one is yet another kick right in the balls. 100,000 Years versus Rip It Out. Yeah, good luck with that, everyone. We've also got Rock Bottom versus Wiped Out, which really upset Steve McGowan. We've also got Take Me versus Down on Your Knees. We've got Let's Put the X in Sex versus Is That You?
Take Me Down on Your
Almost
Knees.
Human. Yeah, Take Me Down on Your Knees.
Kind of goes together.
Yeah, very similar subject matter. And Let's Put the X in Sex. It's all jumping in there.
Obviously, all the perverted songs made it to
Almost
round 2.
Human versus... Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. We got Almost Human versus Car Jam 1981. And finally, our 6th match to make match 12 for round 2 is Cold Gin versus Rain. And I'll say it already now. I'm already disappointed to see such a good Carnival of Souls song lose.
Yeah.
No, that's not going to happen.
Yes. You know, in a normal situation.
I was going to say that Magenica commented on the Car Jam one.
Oh, did she already?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I agreed with her.
Let's see it. Let me reload.
I would try to bring it up, but I don't trust the internet enough to do 2 things at once on this computer.
I don't see any comments at all on this for that one.
Weird.
Yeah, for that match.
Did she comment on like? Did she comment on like your share of it or something?
Oh, you know what? Maybe she did. It might have been when I shared it. Maybe she commented on that.
Let me see.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, there it is. Car Jam is the best, hands down. I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly what she said. It was something like that. I just couldn't remember exactly what it was that she had said.
Up against Almost Human, though. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's almost
I
not
would
even
definitely side with Car Jam. Yeah, for sure. I think Almost Human.
I feel like a lot of these, like as it
wildly.
Yeah, I think that as this goes on, there's going to be a lot of them that just aren't fair to have to choose between.
Yeah, yeah. So that's our matches for this week. We got a lot of oh man, are you kidding me type matches coming up. So look forward to that.
Every week, look forward to us sighing.
Yeah.
So also,
Yes, and it will only get better.
Just to make it clear, in case anyone was wondering or possibly confused, just because we are changing back to the main discography starting next week, no, we're not going to suddenly do away with this whole contest either. It's still going to keep going like it has been. And matter of fact, it may even help with some of this voting since we're covering, the albums one by one again, and maybe after some people hear it with a fresher ear and one of them songs happens to pop up, it might persuade the voting a little different. Who knows?
Very true.
Yep.
Did we have any other comments?
We do, yes. On our 12 picks review from last week, we've got a comment from Robbie Stars, which also has a reply from Thomas, and I know he told us last week how to pronounce his last name, but it's Rain in Adamstown. I remember that. So essentially, Thomas agrees with Robbie here. So Robbie says, this album is a cool greatest hits with a few nice live tracks. I love Breakout, but Insane is my favorite. I love that Frehley's Comet's second sighting more than any of his other albums. Todd Howarth sings and plays on half of it, and the songs are strong, and he has a great voice. But getting back to this album, my top 5 are Insane, Breakout, Into the Night, and Rip It Out. Words are not enough. I'll rate this album an 8. I'd rank it higher if it had more studio tracks because there's lots missing in my opinion. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I do agree, but then I feel like that's where this Loaded Deck kind of picks that up, is it has a lot of the stuff that was missing and possibly a few different versions, or at least a better version as far as live in some cases.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they definitely should have just done an album that was all of the studio versions from 12 Picks and Loaded Deck combined.
Right.
Yeah.
That would have been way better. Yeah. We also have an additional comment from Thomas, referring to our announcement that we were going back to the regular discography, and he suggests mix it up. 2 episodes of Kiss, then Live to Win, 2 episodes of Kiss, then Spaceman, 2 episodes of Kiss, then Cat Number 1, so on.
So we can combine the titles, like, somehow. I don't know. We haven't come up with a title yet, so I don't know how we can combine them. We don't have a title yet.
I'm desperately hoping that most of the rest of the Second Coming stuff that we've got is, we're kind of through the thicket, so to speak, and so when we come back to this, it won't quite be so like every week. But I'm definitely looking forward to several, like 30 or so episodes straight of knowing it's going to be good.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's there's definitely a lot of what I consider to be heavy hitting albums that were still to come on that list. So I mean, I don't have faith in us that by the time we get back to all that, it's not gonna start out like it did where we're doing like Laura Nero albums and things like that. It's gonna start off more with some heavy hitters.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right, Pip?
We have a special guest.
Pepper.
He's like, all right, let me
It's
down.
the dog.
Hi. What are you doing?
All right, so that's it for comments. You ready for what little album info we have here?
Yes. Let's do it.
All right, so as we know, Loaded Deck is a greatest hits compilation from Ace Frehley. This was released January 20th, 1998, so this would have come out while they were working on Psycho Circus. This included several songs from the previous studio albums, Frehley's Comet, Second Sighting, Trouble Walking, plus a couple of brand new songs, and also some live tracks. Now, this doesn't say, at least on Wikipedia, where these live tracks came from, and it was something that I was trying to figure out throughout listening to this. Now, if you jump to the next Ace Frehley release, which is Greatest Hits Live, which came out in 2006, which interestingly, Dad actually has a physical copy of that CD. I noticed it as soon as I saw the cover. Several of these, this seems to be a combination of the live versions from 12 Picks and some of the live songs from Loaded Deck, as well as 1+1 and Give It To Me Anyway, are both on Greatest Hits Live as well.
Wow.
Now the Wikipedia page for this other album we're talking about here claims that Stranger in a Strange Land, Separate, and New York Groove were all from a recording in Chicago. And now at the beginning of Stranger in a Strange Land, he does say Chicago, but then when they're doing New York Groove, they start saying UK, back in the UK groove. So that can't possibly be right. Rock Soldiers sounded to me like it was from the same sessions, but then Remember Me sounded totally different. So no clue where these recordings came from. They can't have all been from the same concert, even though they were kind of put on the album sounding like they were. Who knows? There's no personnel listed on Wikipedia for any of these tracks, so not sure who played on these new versions or who was on the live versions other than Rock Soldiers, where we hear Ace introduce the band. But is it the same lineup for the other songs? No clue.
I thought I heard at one point Ace say something about France in one of these live versions. I don't remember which one it was now, but he said something about, this is how y'all do it in France or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Hard telling with Ace back then. He might not have known where he was at.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah, so that's actually all of the album info we have for Loaded Deck that's on Wikipedia. So kind of a rare album, hard to find, not a whole lot of info floating around, but it seems to have been released shortly after the reunion tour ended in an effort to capitalize, kind of remind everybody, hey, Ace did some solo stuff too.
It's almost like, again, speculation, but who knows what was going on behind the scenes. Maybe he thought that the reunion was it at the time, and maybe he was like, maybe we better get this out, because I'm sure he was going to try to cash in per se and probably go out on another solo tour or whatever. And so maybe Absolutely. That was kind of the thinking behind this at the time. But
right. I am curious as to whether the studio tracks were new. Did he record those with the Frehley's Comet guys or the band from Trouble Walking while Kiss was on the reunion tour, or were these older ones that they just went ahead and threw on here? I'm kind of curious what the timeline was.
Yeah, it seems weird why they didn't include more info like that.
Yeah.
All right, so all right, you start this time. This is the last time. So.
Hey, yeah, that's a good point.
So
I don't know how to start. Oh.
So track number 1, 1+1.
Yeah, 1+1, starting off the album with a brand new song. This is number 7 on my list. Impressed with the production already, and also just stylistically, I wasn't expecting a song like this to start the album. It was kind of nice to hear something new. However, Ace's voice, not big on it. It definitely did not hit me right on this particular song.
Am I going next again?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. This was number 9 for me, and I think it was a good start to the album. I mean, it was a pretty good, solid start, and The mix was good. But yeah, like Luke said, I was not a fan of how he sang this song. I don't know if it was just I just wasn't a fan of the vocals in this song and how they were sang. Like musically it was good, but the vocals were just kind of weird and off. And I don't know if it was just maybe it was just because it was kind of like a love kind of song and Ace doesn't usually do that kind of thing. So maybe that's why it was kind of weird. Um but the solo, I mean for it being the opening song, that solo was pretty good for the opening song. So
It was my number 3. Mainly, I it kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't quite sure what to expect being a quote new track. Um, but yeah, I mean, it did kind of satisfy what I wanted it to be. Can't say so much for the next track, but yeah, I thought it was a good job. Again, I believe there was a track last week that we were saying, but or maybe it was one of these. It's almost like it would have been better had it actually been on an album instead of just this kind of compilation setting.
yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Moving into the second track, "Give It to Me Anyway." The only other new song on here. Actually, I'm surprised to hear you say that you didn't like this one. This was my number 4. I like this one way better than 1+1. I like the groove, and of course, very happy to hear Richie Scarlett's voice. Really happy to hear anyone other than Ace sing. Not too sure about the Love Gun lyric. That seemed a bit on the nose.
Yeah.
Not sure why they thought that was necessary, but also enjoyed the leads from Richie as well. And then, exactly like what you were saying with 1+1, this one definitely could have been on any of the previous releases and fit nicely. I'm a little bit sad that it was only on this one and then that Greatest Hits Live, the two obscure Greatest Hits albums.
Right.
This was number 6 for me. I love the way it started. It had just like this raw kind of sound to it. Um, but this song is one of those examples that I've talked about in the past before, where I love the way he sang the verses, but then when it came to the choruses, the tone and the vibe of the song changes, and I don't think it worked as well in this song. Like it didn't flow as good. Um, it kind of made me feel like it was just a completely different song when the chorus started. Um, but again, that solo was really cool. Like I liked that solo a lot. But yeah, I've talked about that in the past before, where he's done that before. Ace specifically has done that before, and it's fit really well. But in this one, it kind of just was odd. Like the chorus didn't really fit into the song with the same kind of like when it started. It was like okay, like that doesn't even sound like the same song.
This one was number 10 for me. I personally didn't care much for the vocals. I didn't really like his delivery. Um, I wish it was maybe Todd instead, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. So, I do agree, though. Cool solo. I mentioned that as well. But, yeah, it just kind of fell short for me, and especially after, 1+1 kind of really had my hopes up. It was kind of like, I mean, again, not horrible, but it was just like, it could have been so much better, I felt.
I forgot to mention, too, that according to Wikipedia, 1+1 had a co-write from Anton Fig, so I wonder if it was Anton drumming these two.
I would almost guarantee, or at least bet.
It definitely didn't sound like Jamie Oldacre.
Well, no, there was competence and ability.
Yeah. So moving into some older tracks from the Greatest Hits, we've got Ace's cover of "Do Ya," which is originally a The Move song, right?
And ELO, more famously.
Oh, yes, absolutely. This one was number 10 for me. I remember not caring for this one much on the album it was on either. I think this was on Trouble Walkin'. But having said that, though, you have to admit this chorus is so catchy.
Oh, yeah.
and then the middle bit, like the little break, really cool as well. I think it's just the verses I don't particularly care for on this.
Yeah, this was also number 10 for me. I love the way it starts, and I mean, it has a lot of energy to it. And yeah, like Luke said, that chorus is super catchy, but I just kind of got bored with it after a little bit. I kind of faded out and wasn't really paying much attention. And I mean, it just got a little too repetitive for me. So I think that's why it kind of was so low, even though it's got that real catchy chorus to it. I just kind of was like, eh, I'm over it now. Like, I can move on to the next now.
Number 9 for me. I don't remember where I ranked it on Trouble Walking, but again, it's not a bad cover. Obviously, the what I consider the original, the ELO version, um, is what he based this off of. Is miles above it. I mean, I know at the time when we did Trouble Walking, you guys had said you had never heard the ELO version. I don't know if you've ever listened to it since, but I mean, it's miles above as far as like, the harmonies and everything else is, so I will admit that, with Ace singing it, it's nowhere near Jeff Lynne, and the harmonies going into the chorus and everything, and that ELO version you definitely don't get bored with, but I will agree the Ace version does. It gets a little old after like the first chorus. You're like, okay, that's cool. That's about all I need to hear. But
Right.
but again, it's one of them songs that just kind of fits Ace. I mean, his whole
Yeah.
style and sound. So
I find it kind of weird too that whenever they do covers, you can usually tell that it's a cover even before you even know that it's a cover, just because it's so different from everything else that they do. Kiss is the same way when they do their covers too. It's like, that's not a Kiss song originally. Like, they didn't write that song. Oh.
All right, moving into the next one, It's Over Now, which is probably what we were saying when Do You ended. It's over now. And this is unexpectedly my number 1. I remembered liking this one from Second Sighting, but I didn't think that it was going to be my number 1 here. Honestly, it's kind of weird to see this one on an Ace Greatest Hits album. I mean, I know it was from Second Sighting, but this is arguably a Todd Howarth song. And I said, I said this when we did Second Sighting, but I wouldn't be surprised if I found out Ace isn't even on this song. And I listen hard, and I don't hear anything that seems to me like it sounds like Ace. It all sounds like Todd playing guitar to me. And honestly, for an 80s ballad, this song should have been just as big as some of those far more overdone but less well-written 80s ballads. It's such a good song, and it sucks that it didn't get bigger.
Yep, this is number 4 for me. I like the flow of this song. I mean, it's slower, but it flows really smoothly. It's really nice how it flows through. I love the vocals and the way he sings in this song. He just does such a nice job with it, and his vocals, they just fit really well into this song. I don't think if Ace would have tried to sing this song that it would have come close, like justice wise. It was a very nice solo. It had a lot of emotion and fullness to it. It wasn't overdone, and it had a really good length to it. Like, it wasn't too long, but it wasn't, oh, I wish that would have gone on longer. It was pretty much just like a perfect length for this song, for it being kind of like a ballad and stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed it this time. I can't remember what I said about it last time. I don't think I really liked it as much the last time, but I think that may have been just because there were better songs on that album for me. But this time it hit me a little bit different. I think I liked it a lot more this time, I think.
I agree. Number 4 for me as well. Like I said last week, I couldn't tell you any songs that were on Second Sighting other than Insane. I did not remember this being on there, and the same thing. Hearing it again, it was like, wow, this is a pretty cool song. And I think what saved it mainly is Todd's vocals, of course. Because at first I'm like, Ace Frehley and ballad do not go together, and especially on a greatest hits. I'm like, this is a little out of place, but it's kind of the same thing. Like even if Ace isn't on this song at all, it's like this is more like a Todd Howarth spotlight on an Ace Frehley greatest hits album, which is kind of weird to put it that way, but that's kind of how it felt. But yeah, I mean, so this song again, now I remember that, okay, this is a cool song. If I ever put on Second Sighting again, this is one of the songs that I probably would put on, but probably only two.
Yeah.
Yep. And I keep forgetting, I'm pretty sure we talked about this when we did the Second Sighting album, but 4x re-recorded this song on their CD, which we bought at the last Kiss Expo, and I want to hear that. I keep forgetting.
Oh, did they? Yeah, see, I don't even remember talking about that either.
Yeah.
I wish we had already done these albums by the time we had done that Kiss Expo, because at the time, I mean, I knew about Frehley's Comet, but I didn't know those guys. I wouldn't know them if I saw them.
Right.
Now, I would be more excited to see 4x now, knowing who they are.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because to be honest, the only guy other than Ace, obviously, would have been Anton that I would have immediately recognized as he was in Frehley's Comet.
You're right.
Right. Now we've done so much talking up of Todd that I care more.
And I still remember the first time I saw Todd at that expo. I mean, I immediately knew he had to be some rock star or somebody fairly important, the way he was dressed and the way he carries himself. But I'm like, I don't know who that is. And then he gets up and sings. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Pierre.
Hey, there he is.
How's it going, buddy?
I'll send you a tardy slip, Javier.
You're grounded.
Yes. All right. So moving into our next track, "Shot Full of Rock," which I totally do. What?
Before you do that, Javier, I want to know if my package has landed in your hands this week yet.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, "Shot Full of Rock."
Yes, I actually forgot this one was on Trouble Walking. As I was listening to it, I was thinking for some reason it was on the original Frehley's Comet, but this is number 2 for me. I forgot how much I liked this song. I haven't disliked the production on any of these songs so far, but I do wish that they had remastered all of the songs, just so that they at least sounded a bit consistent from song to song. I noticed like a really big drop off in bass frequencies when it went from "It's Over Now" to "Shot Full of Rock," and that was a little weird. Still, it sound bad, but it. Geez, they even remastered 12 picks. Come on.
12 what?
Yeah. We'll leave it.
That's what it sounded like.
It sounded like.
What?
It might as well have been. But yeah, this is such an upbeat and energetic song, and it's cool to hear that. And then anytime you get a guitar duel with 2 good lead guitarists, it's worth mentioning. And this one, absolutely excellent duel between Ace and Richie. Because I almost said Todd, but I almost always forget Trouble Walking was Richie Scarlett, not Todd Howard.
This was number 3 for me. It just has an awesome energy to it, and it's very upbeat. It helps get your blood pumping, and I feel like though that this would have been a great opening for this album. They would have opened the album with this one because of how much energy it has in it. It just would have been like a perfect opening for this.
Well, it did open Trouble Walking, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. Some of the runs kind of had like a Metallica vibe to them. They kind of gave me like a Metallica kind of feeling to them. And then the runs at the end of the song, I just love that. That was so cool.
Number 5 for me. I'm pretty sure when we did Trouble Walking, I ranked this one a lot higher. But again, in this scenario and up against the track listing on here, especially some of these live tracks, it just felt a little bit shorter this time. But again, still a great track. One of Ace's probably heavier songs, and sometimes again it's kind of weird to say heavy when it comes to any Kiss member stuff, but when it comes down to it, it kind of was for its time, and definitely holds up well in this grouping of songs. But maybe if they did have it open this compilation just like it did on the album, maybe that would have helped it a little bit too. But putting the two new tracks at the very beginning versus like say the end or something like what Kiss would have done, or for the most part. But yeah, just another classic Ace track still, and one that I always go to when I listen to Trouble Walking.
Definitely.
Javier said his your package is there. He said yes, it is.
If only we could see you open it.
Yes. All right, so moving on, we go into a short grouping of live tracks. The first of which is Stranger in a Strange Land. And this strange song ended up in number 9 for me. And dang it, man, I hate to be that guy again, but I just would have so much rather had the studio version here than the live version. This live version is not bad, but the studio version is better. The one thing I can say, and I was hopeful at the point that I made this note, but it ended up being true. I hope the rest of these live tracks sound like this one. The production is good, and the drumming so much better than the live tracks on 12 Picks. Holy crap. So happy to hear that if they were going to include live tracks, at least they were good ones this time.
Yeah. This is number 7 for me. I don't remember what I said about this song the first time around, but like this time around, I can't decide if I like it or not. It was kind of hitting me just in a weird way, and maybe that was because it was a live version and it just kind of was weird. Because the sound is generally different anyway with it being a live version. But it may have just been also just the general flow of this song. It just was odd to me this time for some reason, so that's why it was kind of low. On top of it being live, and I don't know, it just hit me weird this time.
Number 7 for me, and I didn't remember this song as well, even on the Frehley's Coming album, so I don't think it was one of my top ranked ones, even on that album from what I recall. But I agree, it just it kind of fell a little short this time, but I will say though, in this live setting, once again, just another striking difference between Anton and what's his name, Jamie, that stands out is you could just tell how much harder Anton hits those drums versus what Jamie did on his stuff. And that's just another difference that stands out so well on this, and it just gives it that power and that energy and strength like it always had, even on the albums. And that's the kind of stuff that was missing. And a lot of musicians and especially drummers know that it comes down to the feel, and when you're playing it a different way with a different kind of feel, you're really taken away from the song, and that's what Jamie was doing.
Definitely. Yep, and then this is also the one where we hear the announcer at the beginning of the track say Chicago.
Kind of a Kiss sort of feel to the intro,
which was a little weird. And then to open, if they really opened the show with this, now I'll say this again: the audience sounded a little fake at time, or at least beefed up. Maybe is the better way to put it. So. And these definitely were not from the same concert, even though the crowd up to Remember Me sounds the same from song to song. So maybe they didn't start the show with this one, who knows? But if they did, it's a weird choice.
I feel like he usually opened with like Rip It Out or something like that.
Yeah.
That would make way more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they could have Kiss Alived this and kind of taken live tracks and arranged them differently and made the crowd seem kind of consistent from song to song. You know?
I'm sure they did, especially once we get to Remember Me.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So our second live track here is Separate, which originally comes from Second Sighting. And this is number 12 for me. The chorus annoys the crap out of me. I remember not liking this one when we did it on Second Sighting either. What interested me and confused me about the live tracks here is that I could swear when they're talking at the beginning that somebody says, let's play one from the new album, which made me wonder, is this Second Sighting tour again? This doesn't sound like Jamie Oldacre, or did they already have someone else? But no, I'm almost certain this. I had to have misheard that. I had to have, because they play. First of all, if it doesn't sound like Jamie, I don't think this could possibly be Jamie. And then, Remember Me Later is not even on Second Sighting. But then again, that sounds like it's from a different concert. So I don't know.
They do say off of our new album, which is not even out yet.
So yeah, that's just so confusing, because this
and
is
it
definitely
sounds like,
on Second Sighting.
And it sounds like he's saying, "Hey, Gene," like who the hell is he even talking to?
Yeah.
Javier says, I sure hope he does a full live concert when he tours again. He is way overdue for a full live. Yeah, I agree, but at the same time, I'm glad that he's putting out studio albums fairly regularly at this point. And I may not be a huge fan of the entire albums, but there are some quality songs and content on there, and I think it's kind of cool that he's mixing it up, putting out a covers album and then an originals album here and there, and then as far as I know, another Origins album's coming next, so hard to say, but yeah, I mean, a live album, especially with the Gene backing band, the Talisman. Definitely. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yes, I think I'd like to hear it just for that, because I know they push him to do tracks you don't expect, and and those guys are just great. If I heard it, me, I'd complain about all of Ace's contributions, but I'd like to hear it from them.
Javier's not very excited for Origins too. I'm kind of just like taking it with a grain of salt. I'm not really even sure what to expect on it, other than I know Gene is apparently on a song or two. Other than that, I'm not sure if I've even seen a track listing, if there is one. So, I'll just take it with a grain of salt and check it out, and hopefully it delivers like the first one did.
Right. I'm never a huge fan of the idea of an album of nothing but covers, but yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Separate is number 8 for me, and I said this, I wish they would have just gone with the album versions of these songs. The live versions they throw too much off for me. And I don't know if this was just because it's Ace, or if it was because a mic problem or something during this song, but especially at the beginning, it was hard to kind of understand him. His words mumbled together really bad.
Right.
And hard to even really hear what he was saying. And that could have just been him. You know how he is. Like, but I mean, the solo flowed really nicely in the song. But this song has the same kind. It gave me the same kind of weirdness that Stranger in a Strange Land did. It just wasn't hitting me right this time, because it has the same kind of weird kind of like flow to it as the other one did, and I don't know, I was kind of put off by it.
Number 11 for me, I never cared for this song either way, and I agree what you were just saying about the beginning when they're talking. It's like they could have turned down that crowd noise a little bit to make it a little easier to understand what they were saying, but and I don't know, the chorus I just felt was too like vanilla, and like it's almost like they weren't even trying to just separate. It's like I can't stand those kind of choruses when you just literally just pretty much say the title of the song, and there's not really any.
Especially with like a short title.
Right, and it's just like so. It's so kind of generic sounding.
Yes.
That's just me, but yeah, just not a fan of this song altogether.
Definitely. And that takes us into New York Groove, which, as we've established several times, couldn't possibly be from the same concert because they start saying UK Groove in the middle, even though they earlier said they were in Chicago. However, the crowd noise from Separate to New York Groove is constant, so who knows what's going on here? None of us know anymore. This is number 8 for me, which is surprisingly high. I was prepared to put this as my number 12. Anybody who's watched this podcast for a while knows New York Groove is not my favorite song, least of all favorite Ace song. But, and I can't quite put my finger on it, this particular live version was catching me a little bit. I liked the drum sound and the groove that Anton was putting with it. Yeah, I don't know what it was about this particular one. Ace's voice was kind of catching me, the way he was saying the words. Very strange. It was very strange feeling for me to be listening to New York Groove and going, yeah, you know?
It's number 12 for me, and I just can't do it again. I can't do this song again. I just can't. I don't have a review for it. I can't do it again.
Number 6 for me. Assuming that this is Anton, I guess it is. This is one complaint that I do have about how he's playing the song. I don't like the snares that he's adding, especially like during the chorus section and whatnot. To me, it just doesn't fit. It kind of changes the feel of the song. Other than that, though, yeah, I agree. I felt like it was one of Ace's best recorded versions as far as live. I agree the way he delivered the vocals, but other than that, I mean, yeah, because listening to the the Dynasty Tour version just earlier today, and then listening to this, it's just like, wow, who are you? And what did you do?
I know.
Yeah. Anyway, to sum it up, I mean, not a horrible version, just not a big fan of the added snares, and that's just being nitpicking as a drummer, but can't help it. So, but yeah, good vocal performance. That's all I'll leave it at.
Yeah. Moving on into Rock Soldiers, the classic Ace tune. And here Ace does introduce us to the band. So again, knowing for sure these songs don't come from the same concert, who knows if this was the lineup for the other songs, but he mentions Todd Howarth, John Regan, and Anton Fig. Now, very surprisingly, baffling to me, this is my number 11. Now, I did note Anton on the drums. That explains a lot. This live version does not have the same weight the studio version has. It felt like it was missing its bottom end. It felt empty, and it felt like it was missing kind of a power and a heft, if that makes sense. And to me, that's what this song is all about. The marching part, the marching snare drum. Ace's spoken vocals were a little covered. I would have loved to have had the studio version. The only cool thing about this one was Ace's interaction with the audience. What does the devil have? That was so neat.
This was number 5 for me. The drums are just so much better. I definitely prefer Anton to Jamie, obviously, as everybody else does too. I mean, he can actually not only play the songs, not only correctly, but very well. This would have been a good album opener as well had it been the album version and not the live version. It just has a great groove to it. It's kind of more of like it's more laid back, but it still retains an energy that fits perfectly for the tone. It's just a good old fashioned rock song. you know. Um, and I don't remember what I said about it the last time, but I'm sure it was similar at least. Um, and this time, I mean, this time it just hit right. I was really enjoying it.
Number one for me. Again, it comes down to Anton being the drummer on here, that power that he puts behind it. I feel like this track is from much later in the set, being, because usually it seems like when they, take those moments to announce the band, it's always sort of towards the end of the set or something. And so it's almost like they were a bit, winded by this point, and that's why this version might sound a bit, weaker to an extent. But I still thought it was cool. I liked the little small like drum and bass kind of groove thing towards the end that was kind of thrown in. Kind of a nice little touch. And yeah, I mean, like I've said, I almost feel like the stuff he's talking about this is a little stronger than the content of Shock Me. I mean, just talking about, again, like him surviving and, near death experiences and everything. So that's always been the big, grabber on this song for me every time I hear it. So great version.
I think you're right, because he says good night at the end too. So I bet this was like the end.
Yeah, or the false ending before they, probably did another encore or two.
Right. All right, so moving into our last live track, which is Remember Me, which again, not only is that from a totally different album than, if we're to believe Separate is a new song, then this must be. But the crowd noise does actually fade completely out at the end of Rock Soldiers, and a different crowd noise, sounds a little bit different, comes in for Remember Me. Honestly, I thought all of the instruments sounded a little different on this. And this ended up being my number 3. Now, I remember rating this one fairly low when we did Trouble Walking. But I'd almost forgotten about it, that kind of bluesy feel to it. I immediately remembered, oh man, this one had a guitar duel in it on the studio version. I hope they do that. And they did, and it was awesome. I don't know if it was Todd or Richie, because it was Richie on the album, Trouble Walking, so I don't know who would have been playing guitar live. But something about the production seemed a little bit different to me on this one, and it was super tight. Yeah, I liked the production on all the other live tracks, but I kind of wish they had all sounded like this one. And then the ending of this one too was super neat. I liked it. I'm not sure I would have been mad if this had ended the album, actually.
Huh.
This was number 11 for me. The song is just boring. All around is just kind of boring for me, and I feel like it tries really hard not to be, but I don't really have a whole lot to say about it that I really liked, but I did really enjoy the solos. That was about the most exciting part for me, and that was really cool. And then I noticed some neat little like bass runs and stuff that were going on kind of behind everything, which was kind of cool too, but I don't know, for some reason the song is just kind of really boring until it gets to them solos and stuff. I was just kind of like,
I know I already am going to regret this, because once I listen to it again, I know it's going to catch me a lot more, but right now it's my number 12. I don't believe one bit that this is a live track. It sounds like they totally just threw the crowd noise over the studio track and made it sound live for some reason. I do like, again, it's weird to say, but it's definitely got a lot of that kind of bluesy feel to it. Kind of like a jam session at the same time. I agree, the ending is cool. It kind of picks up, and with the drumming and everything else, sounds really good. So again, like from then to now, like I just, because again, I was listening to little pieces as you guys were talking, and it's like I can already tell that I'm gonna regret the ranking at number 12.
Yeah, I remember ranking that one really low when we did Trouble Walking. I don't know what it was about this one hit me a different way, or it's a different day. It's a different month,
Yeah,
for Christ's sake.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
again, I don't remember that on Trouble Walking.
Yeah, seems like it was near the end of that one too.
Jeez.
All right, so moving out of our live tracks and back into studio tracks for the final two, both of which are from the Fractured Mirror series. This first one is Fractured 2. This is my number 6. Right away, I wish they'd put Fractured Mirror on here. Maybe it had to have been some sort of Kiss copyright rub. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't have put it on here, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It almost had to have been that they weren't allowed to. That's still really neat that they put 2 and 3 together at least. Now, I noted that this one almost gets a little too long, but it stays right under the mark, I think, nicely, where right about the time it ends is when you're starting to be like, okay. You know? But it does follow up to the first Fractured Mirror extremely well.
I actually ranked these two together because they're my number 1 and my number 2. Fractured 3 is my number 1 and Fractured 2 is my number 2, and I ranked them together because they go together. And I'm trying really hard. I was trying really hard to think of words that I could say that could describe my feelings accurately for these two songs. And I put in here that I was going to do something that I haven't ever done and rate them together at the same time. I mean, being that they are my number 1 and 2 in this list, and then the fact that they just flow into each other so smoothly, it just helps my experience with them. I really love the whole Fractured like trilogy that is going on, and I wish they could have put if they had the option, I wish they would have put it on there, and then if they didn't, I wish they could have put it on there, the first one. And it would have helped complete the uniqueness to the whole set, you know. I've always loved these songs, and it's hard to display emotion through music alone because most people, you know, when they connect to music, they connect to words and lyrics rather than the music itself. And especially people who have no kind of musical training or anything like that. And I know before I ever met Luke, yeah, I was like that. The words were always what I connected to more than anything. But he nails the emotion in these songs so well. Like there's never just one emotion. Like you feel happy at times, you feel sad at times, and then just everything in between those two feelings you feel at different points during these songs. And I closed my eyes and I just leaned back and I just listened to them. I didn't open my eyes. I just let it play out and I just listened to it completely, just toned everything else out. And this ending, I mean, it just helped save this album and helped me rank it a lot higher than I probably would have. I was really glad that they didn't end it with a live version of something, and it ended perfect. Like they just help bring about this sensation of calmness and almost clarity in a way. And I can remember saying that about them when I listened to them individually when they were on the different albums. But then when they were put together, it was like, okay, I just have to sit back and listen to this. Like I don't want to type while I'm listening to it. I just want to listen to it. And
Right.
it was so perfect. Like I loved it. I loved how it ended. Like it was so perfect.
Yeah, that makes a good point because sometimes that is kind of a double-edged sword to doing this is like typing up thoughts as we're listening, and sometimes we don't really get to just really listen to it versus just kind of what we're hearing and typing, and then we might miss something as we're typing because we're thinking of words in our head, so sometimes that can be a little, but in some cases though it's worth like, okay, I'm gonna go back and play this song again, or something that kind of caught my ear, really pay attention this time, sometimes. But I totally get that. Well, I guess in that manner then, I actually ranked them number 2 and number 8. it's almost, again, it's almost unfair because being that these are instrumental tracks, and it's almost like they should be just kind of on their own little, like sub part of this CD, I guess, like, and not included with all this stuff. And I've always still wanted to sit down and play all the Fractureds back to back to back. However, I can't remember how many there are now at this point, but I've always wanted to do that, just see how they all flow together, and maybe somehow, even at the end, if it would somehow make sense, like even throw in that Dimebag version again, even though it is essentially the first one still, but just that different version of it at the end or something. See how that would, something I've always wanted to do. But yeah, I mean, I love these pieces of music, and I think I said back, I forget which album with one of these Fractureds, I think I remember saying that sometimes I wish Ace would have just done nothing but like instrumental albums, and with this,
at least one,
right, with this kind of stuff, that cosmic kind of spacey sounding stuff that because he's obviously so good at it, and I've always kind of wished that that would have happened, because to me it's like, if you listen to say the first Fractured Mirror that's on the 78 album, and you look at that poster that comes with it, and when I look at that, it's like I just feel like that poster looks the way Fractured Mirror sounds, if that makes sense. And it kind of just gives you that that feeling. And like you said, it can even be kind of calming and relaxing, and it's just it's just great.
Yeah, I know that when I was leaning back and I just had my eyes closed listening to it, the visuals, I mean, I felt like I was on acid or something, you know what I mean? Because it's like I was having visuals coming at me from every which way the whole time, and they, like, because I didn't open my eyes, I barely could tell when it transitioned, like, because it just, like, there was no break, like, it just whoop right into the next one, and it was like, it's crazy how that does that, how, like, with no words at all, you get all these just images, and just it's insane how like you can do that with just music alone. Like, that is crazy. Like, I love it.
I feel like it's been such a long time since I've been able to truly do that, to just sit back and close your eyes and truly listen to the music. It's like I'm always just at the computer when I'm playing music anymore and things like that. I don't feel like I ever get to truly listen like I maybe could have done back when I was younger or something like that. But it'd be nice.
Luke actually wrote a 5-song EP, and that was actually one of the very first things that he ever gave me, like, before we ever dated or anything. And that's what I did, because it's mostly instrumental. The whole thing is mostly, it's the first time I'd ever listened to something that had just barely, I mean, there's a few lyrics, but it's just in one song and it's just barely there. And it's like, I sat back on my floor and listened to it over and over. I just laid on my floor in my room and just listened to it over and over with my eyes closed. And it was like, it took me to places I didn't even know I could go. Like, that was one of the things that helped me just fall in love with him, like, 100%.
I think I have a copy of that, and it made me fall in love with him too.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Keep your hands off my man.
It was cool stuff. Javier is asking if the other posters remind me of any songs on the albums. Not really. If I were to say off the top of my head, though, like Jeans, it kind of makes me think of Mr. Make Believe. But as far as Peter's, not really. Paul, maybe, maybe Tonight You Belong to Me, but that's kind of just like, if I had to pick. But the Ace one, it's more like, no, like that, legitimately, like I would just sit and stare at that back when, when I used to have those posters hanging on my wall when I lived with my parents, and, I'd be playing that song and I'd just be like staring at it like,
yeah. Definitely. So Fracture 3 was my number 5. I love that it starts with a bass riff, I think Fractured 3 kind of goes into what I love about connected instrumental songs. Fractured 2 is very similar to Fractured Mirror. It's kind of like the same thing, but just a little different, which is still interesting. Fractured 3 takes that same feel, but does something totally different. It's still, you still feel kind of like you're floating along. It has that nice laid back, calming, relaxing feel, but it's got a totally different riff.
Yep.
But it's still got the feel of the Fractured Mirrors. It doesn't feel like it doesn't belong with those. It still feels perfectly like it. It's just a different, kind of a different flavor to it, if you will, I think is the right way to put it. But
yes.
Javier, you're our resident tiebreaker. Real quick, while we continue to talk, Shot Full of Rock or Fractured 2?
Ooh, that's a tough decision, though, because those are both so good.
Which Fractured Mirror?
2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And Shot Full of Rock. Ooh. No pressure, Javier.
Yes.
I think he just jumped out the window.
I ain't doing that one. I ain't touching it.
Oh.
Yes. So did both of you guys already talk about Fractured 3 then?
Pretty much. Yeah. I just talked about them as a whole and, named, said both numbers.
Yes.
He said Fractured 2.
Fractured 2. Awesome. Okay.
Oh, my legs.
Right, awesome. Okay. So that was the end of yet another Ace Greatest Hits. I think I gave this one a 5 overall, 5 out of 10. Very much unlike last week, this album wasn't bad to listen to at all. I do still wish it had been all studio tracks, but the live ones weren't unlistenable this time. The drumming was great, the production was great. Very nice. If you're going to put live tracks on, this was the way to do it at least. I'm left feeling yet again like I would like so much more of Ace's discography if someone other than Ace sang most of them. I've highlighted places that I felt Ace's vocals really fit. Like, I'll say it till the day I die, the song Trouble Walkin', hands down Ace's best vocal, in my opinion. He blows me away a little bit how good it is, because I've got a whole... just my personal feeling, all of the rest of his songs, I wouldn't have believed he was physically capable of doing stuff like what he did on the song Trouble Walkin'. But if I'm being honest, back to referencing this album, criticizing Ace's voice is kind of just reaching for something at all to complain about. It's fine. Ace's voice has never been my favorite, but it doesn't completely ruin any of these songs at all.
It's fine, Sam.
Yes, exactly. Honestly, it's a shame this album's kind of rare. It maybe doesn't have every single song from Ace's solo career that I would personally pick for a greatest hits, but it does have a nice range, and of course they didn't pick any of the production ones. They're all good. So yeah, solid, very solid Ace greatest hits.
Yeah, I see. I would say that for me, like, one of his best vocals was, is it Into the Night? Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I love the way he sang that song. That was such a good song. I think that was probably one of my favorite vocal performances by him, because I'm not the greatest fan of his voice either, and I think he just blew that one out of the water. Like, I can't believe that, listening to an Ace song, that I would like it so much. Like, I think he just did a fantastic job on that.
What'd you rank it?
Oh, I ranked this album. I originally had it as at a 5, but then as I was giving my overall rating, I moved it to a 7 just because I started talking about the Fractureds again, and that just brought this album so much higher for me because they were like right next to each other. And overall I would say that this album, I mean, it just completely crushed the last one. In every way. It was so much better. I mean, even with the added live versions, I mean, that I could have done without, I mean, it definitely still had its ups and downs where it was kind of boring in places and stuff, but even the downs were so much easier to deal with than the last album.
Yeah.
It was a good selection of songs, and it just, I still think starting the album though with Shot Full of Rock would have been just a perfect beginning, just like I feel like the Fractures were a perfect ending. Um, and I mean, just choosing to end the album with those two songs was just definitely a smart move. I feel like it helped to bring about every emotion that you could want to have, and it just, I mean, you can't help but just get lost in them, you know. So I rated it 7.
Okay. For me, I gotta stick with my thing with compilations. I don't, not going higher than 5, but I'm gonna give this one a 5. A little higher than 12 picks. I think one of the things that did it for me was having the two, new tracks. That's always kind of a fun bonus to listen to and to hear something fresh and new. Again, the live tracks having Anton, at least most of them, it may have been all of them, hopefully, but just knowing that he was on at least a few was a big, major plus right there. And again, the selection, thought it was another pretty good selection of Ace's material.
Yep.
Now, see this version I have on the computer. I don't know, because apparently they call it the 21st anniversary, and it was a 2 CD set. So again, I don't know if this was official or a fan just created this disc 2 and called it that. But talk about filling all the spots. So like disc 2, you've got Into the Night, Words Are Not Enough, Insane, Hide Your Heart, Trouble Walking, Rock Soldiers, Rip It Out, Breakout, Cold Gin, Shock Me, Rocket Ride, Deuce, Emerald featuring Slash, Genghis Khan, Guitar Solo, Detroit Rock City, and then Dimebag Darrell's Snowblind cover. So I mean,
Wow.
all that extra stuff there. Again, I'm not sure if that was an official, anniversary release or what, but
All those
That would've
Kiss
been
songs, I bet that's fan made.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got to thinking because, like Genghis Khan was on, I think it's Anomaly, which came out in like 2009. So it definitely has to be I guess it would make sense being the 21st anniversary of Loaded Deck, but so to even throw some of that newer stuff on there, but yeah, definitely a unique compilation.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so we don't have Steve and Rochelle McGowan's votes this week. I would imagine they probably did rank them, but they're probably busy at this point. I do believe Steve's band Weapons of God practices Friday nights now. It's probably why he doesn't join us quite so often. So this will be subject to change once they get us their votes, I imagine. Of course, everybody else, get yours in too. Javier, if you want to rank this whole album, by all means, man. We'll get them in there. We don't mind putting them in after the episode's already done. And the same will go for, starting next week when we get back to the Kiss discography. We want to get as many full rankings, just like we three do it here, as we possibly can. It's not limited to just us three and Steve and Rochelle or anybody that wants to give us full rankings. Please do. We actually, the more results, the better. We really do enjoy it when you guys jump in there with us.
And again, like anyone that wants to come on and do the show with us here on video, because we had a lot of that happen the first time we did the discography. So the door's always been open. I mean, again, we understand the appeal for the Second Coming stuff may not have been as great, so maybe that's why nobody wanted to step forward and come on. But we're the door is definitely wide open again now that the Kiss discography is coming back. So if anyone wants to come on, we're thinking, no more than 1 or 2 guests at a time. We can definitely schedule ahead for, this album, that album, whatever. Just all you got to do is contact us, send us a instant message on Facebook, or if you have our personal numbers, text us, whatever. So the door is definitely open.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And by the way, the
All
Kiss
right,
Cruise
so-
is sold out.
I saw that. Yeah, I actually got an
What was
email
it?
about it.
What was it?
Kiss Cruise.
Aw.
Yep.
And today is the anniversary of the famous Roosevelt Stadium show on the Destroyer Tour, July 10th. Let's see. Jay Giles, Bob Seger, and Point Blank were the openers.
Wow.
Huh.
Wow. That's
I
weird
may be
to think
a-
of Bob Seger opening for Kiss.
Yeah, I know. A lot of them bands they took out to open.
Yeah.
Javier says I may be up to it now that I have a webcam. Yeah, definitely, man. Just like I said, let us know. We'll
Looking forward to it.
pencil you in for whatever shows you want to do, man.
Yes. Which one were you on? Javier, were you on Hot in the Shade last time?
Oh, that's right. I forgot we did that one, but it was audio only.
Right.
And it turned out not the greatest either, but what was
something
that?
went wrong with that recording. I feel like it was the same episode Gino was on, and that was Hot in the Shade.
Maybe it was. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it'll definitely be cool to have Javier on video, though. And,
Absolutely. All right, so I got our rankings up here and ready to go.
He said yes, I was.
Them up here. Awesome. I thought that's what it was. That's been a little bit ago now.
yeah.
Let me type up our game board real quick. Okay, so this one ended up with a 5.7 out of 10 overall average ranking, which is pretty good. Again, that sticks it kind of right in the middle of everything that we've got, but still higher up, which is definitely correct. This album is much more worth a listen than several of the albums we've done in the Second Coming series.
Yeah.
So since we're taking a break from these extra albums, this was a good one to end on. So that's definitely good. In last place for this week, with a low ranking from all three of us, Separate. We got in 11th place, we've got Do Ya, also with a low ranking from all of us. In 10th place, Remember Me. 9th place, New York Groove. In 8th place, Stranger in a Strange Land. In 7th place, Give It To Me Anyway. Closely followed by 6th place, 1+1. In 5th place, Rock Soldiers. In 4th place, Fractured 3. And our top 3 for this week, that's right, Javier broke the tie again for the high-ranking ones. In 3rd place, Shot Full of Rock. In 2nd place, Fractured 2. And our first place winner for this week, It's Over Now, which I do believe was also first place on Second Sighting. If I remember correctly, I've lost where the album is on the game board, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. No, actually, It's Over Now. It wasn't in our top 3 at all. That's surprising. Huh.
Yeah, I think that
totally
when we did that album, I ranked it a lot lower than I did this time, if I remember right.
Javier, if you said if you want to try it now, I'm going to send you over the link here on Facebook. And then you could pop in. It should pop you right in over on here, and we can add you. Make sure it's going to work.
What number did it make it to, Luke, on the album?
When we did Second Sighting?
Yeah.
Let me look. Extras.
So coming up next in about 2 years or so will be Union's first album,
Yeah.
the self-titled. So get your votes in for that.
Definitely. It's over now. Came in 4th place on Second Sighting.
Okay, so I mean, it wasn't that far down. It just barely missed the top 3.
Well, that's a wrap for the Second Sighting as a whole, or Second Coming, I meant. As of right now, so probably for the next couple, well, I don't know if it'll be a couple years, but let's say at least a year or so. Yeah, so we hope you guys enjoyed what it was for the time being. We had a good time doing it here and there, and depending on the albums. And again, we're very excited to get back to the main Kiss discography again, and because some of you guys that have come along, since we started the Second Coming and wasn't with us on the main discography, it'd be nice to interact with you on those and hopefully bring in a lot of new faces now. So, again, please spread the word. Please, spread our YouTube channel. And, Javier, I know you said you share our shows and stuff to your Omaha Facebook group. We definitely appreciate that, man.
Yes.
Much appreciated. So,
Absolutely.
oh, is it him? Hey.
How's it going?
Yeah, you said
Get
you
rid of this
share our
overlay.
Omaha Facebook group. We definitely appreciate
Javier.
that. Much appreciated.
He's here.
So,
He's here.
oh, what's up?
What is up, man?
Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Finally. Sounds like we got a bit of a delay there.
Like an echo, yeah.
Good to see you guys. What's up, man?
Good to see you.
Oh, not much. Yeah, it's a little difficult to hear.
Yeah. It is echoing kind of bad.
Good to see you. Oh, not much. Yeah, I'll definitely try to be on one of these shows coming up. Yeah, it's a little difficult to hear.
Definitely, yeah. Yes, that'll be awesome to have, especially talking about one of the core Kiss discography rather than one of these weird ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to be on one of these shows coming up. I was telling my story about each album, but I started, I think, somewhere right around Dynasty, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I started with the first couple. I could be wrong. I know I didn't get at least the first 3.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Javier, do you still have your YouTube open? I think that might be why we're getting that feedback.
Yeah, let me try to get out of that.
There's such a delay on the actual live feed.
Yeah, that sounds better.
There we
Yeah.
go.
There we go.
All right.
Now we can't hear those idiots in the background, thank God.
Yeah.
So what's
like I
up?
was saying, last time I was telling my story from each album, and I don't believe I got the first 3 or 4 albums in. I think I started maybe Dynasty, Destroyer, somewhere right around in there.
That's right. Yeah.
Definitely.
And what better way to tell your story than actually on here instead of just typing it up, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
It might be a little bit surprising, though. I didn't, well, in fact, the first album, I didn't hear that until, geez, maybe around the Look It Up era.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the first one I remember coming out was Dynasty. So I remember Dynasty, Unmasked, and everything on up. I had heard Rock and Roll Over, Destroyer before Dynasty, and I want to say somewhere around the Elder is when I got Just to Kill and Hotter Than Hell, but didn't get the first one until around the Lick It Up era, somewhere right around there.
That's funny you say that because that's kind of the same time frame that I was introduced to, Kiss, and my dad handed me that first album was right around that same time frame. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, so after I got that is when I finally got Alive too. So I didn't hear that until then either.
Wow.
I can remember I had an article from a magazine that I was reading, and they were talking about Black Diamond. I was like, I never heard that song before. I got to find that.
I know. I got so accustomed to Alive that when I heard, like, say, Deuce on the album, the actual album version, I was like, this sounds weird. It sounds slower, and there's like, all these extra guitar pickings going on, and so I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then I immediately jumped to that Animalized Live Uncensored, which was right around the first thing I saw, and I'm like, where's the makeup? What's going on here?
Well, I think that Animalized Uncensored, I think that might be one of the discs that I sent you.
Oh, yeah?
I
The
think so.
radio? Nice. I started going through them today. I got a few in today. Definitely enjoying it.
Cool. If you have any problems with any of them, let me know, and I'll burn them again.
No, it's all good so far.
Yeah, in fact, I have. Let me grab that box real quick.
Yeah.
Right here, I will be jamming this weekend for sure.
Nice. Yeah. Enjoy, man.
I am excited about it, believe me.
There's some
Anything
killer-
new? Anything new, I'm all for.
Absolutely.
I like music a little bit.
Yeah, especially when it's Kiss. It's like, I don't care how many times you hear the song, different concert. It's still like something new about it to me.
Exactly.
I was laughing because I was listening to that Psycho Circus tour in Detroit. It was like one of the like second discs in there, and on "Let Me Go Rock and Roll," Gene screws up the lyrics, and I had a good laugh on that.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad this worked out now that I know I don't have to have the YouTube on and
Yeah.
hearing that echo. I was wondering what I was doing wrong there.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, this
it's all
works out
good
really
to go
nice.
now.
Yeah.
So like I said, man, whatever episode you want to come on, you're more than welcome. And if you want to come on all of them.
I try to get here as soon as I can, but with Friday I usually mow when I get home because I have to get up early on Saturdays and pick up my mom from dialysis. And I'd rather have it taken care of instead of having to come back home and then do that, So
Yeah.
so maybe so I'll do what I can. If not, maybe I'll just hop in the middle of the episode or something, just.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been fairly flexible. I mean, we just recently started flexing, starting a little bit later than what we had been, based on our, work and everything. But I mean,
Yeah, that helps out a lot.
I mean, we're fairly flexible. If we, I'm sure it wouldn't be too big of a deal if we either adjusted the time again or even the day or something. I mean, hell, back when we started the podcast, we used to record at like 8 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I don't want to set you guys back or anything. I know you're an hour ahead of me, so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really against, making it work, just to be able to have, you on and, hearing your stories and, hopefully some other people want to come on too, and, either at the same time as you are or other times, whatever. I mean,
All right.
Yep.
Well, that should go fine.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be in touch and let you know.
absolutely, man.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we're going to wrap this up then. All right. So again, next week we're back to the Kiss discography. So you guys know the drill. First album, get your votes in. We want to hear all your stories about it, everything.
So are you going to go through all the albums before you go back to the other albums?
Yes.
Okay.
There had been some talk already about maybe we should mix in or whatever, but I think right now we're just kind of planning on just focusing on the discography again. We're gonna do it a little different this time. We're gonna leave a few smashes and stuff like that. We're gonna leave those out, but then we're gonna take the 2 new songs from Smashes and the 4 songs from Killers and the 4 songs from Alive 2, all that kind of stuff, and kind of combine them into we're going to call it its own album, and then rank all those as its own album. And we're still not sure if we're going to do that at the very end of it, or maybe just somewhere sort of in between, but
All right, that sounds good.
so I think,
I'll be in a part of it.
absolutely, man. So just give us a buzz, let us know what you want to do, and we'll make it work out.
All right, sounds
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, everybody else. See you guys next week for Kiss. Kiss, 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 kiss.
So many kids.
With kissing time.
Yes.
Yes.
Kiss, that's the name.
Oh no. Yes.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week.